a notorious female pirate hides under the guise of an ordinary mother on a remote island. But when the cruel ghost of the past knocks on the door, stealing her beloved husband and driving her family to the brink of death, a Bloody Mary is forced to awaken from the realm of the dead. A bloodbath on the peak of the deadly cliff officially begins. Everything started a few days earlier. Amid the fierce storm on the Caribbean Sea, lightning tore across the sky, gunshots rang out loudly as the pirate gang suddenly attacked. Climbing aboard a small merchant ship that was rocking in the waves and wind, Captain Bodden immediately ordered the crew to burn the logbook, trying to erase all traces. Facing the pirates, he affirmed that they were just ordinary fishermen, but they showed no mercy, ruthlessly massacring the entire crew and throwing the bodies into the cold sea. After the bloodbath, the terrifying leader stepped out, introducing himself as Captain Connor. He coldly interrogated Bodden about the gold bar with special markings, which was said to have been stolen from him many years earlier. Connor sternly forced him to reveal who had given him that gold bar, but before Bodden could speak, the first mate found a map showing that the ship had departed from Cayman Brac Island. Without hesitation, Connor immediately ordered Bodden to be tightly bound in the ship's hold and changed course. Their next target was that island. Meanwhile, on a peaceful sunny morning on the beach of Cayman Brac, the residents gathered in the church to pray for the ships at sea to return safely. Life here seemed completely detached from the blood storm out on the ocean. After the service, Ursel used binoculars to look out to the distant sea, her heart still heavy with longing for her husband. She had no idea that Bodden's life was on the brink of death at Connor's hands. Then, as usual, Ursel returned to their small house where her 12-year-old son Isaac was waiting. Unlike other children, Isaac suffered from paralysis in both legs. Also in the house was Elizabeth, Ursel's sister-in-law, who was always trying to leave the island with her boyfriend because she could not stand the confined life there. As night fell quietly, all three prayed for Bodden's safety after 2 months apart. Noticing the unease in her son's eyes, Ursel tried to reassure him. She took out a dagger that Bodden had left before departing, a secret gift for Isaac when he turned 13. Thanks to that, the boy's longing for his father eased somewhat. But the next morning, the island's tranquility was torn apart by strange sounds outside. Ursel, startled, hurriedly ran to Elizabeth's room to check. But when she opened the door, her heart tightened upon seeing the room empty. A bad premonition immediately rose. Right then, she spotted a stranger lurking outside the porch. It turned out to be pirates sent by Connor to scout. With no time to hesitate, Ursel rushed into the room to wake Isaac, carried him to the floorboard, and opened the secret passage below. Once she was sure her son was safely hidden, she took a deep breath, preparing to face the danger. Outside, the pirates raised mocking voices, asking if anyone was home. Ursel tried to stay calm, replying through the door that they were just an ordinary family with nothing of value. But those words were useless. 2 pirates suddenly jumped down from the roof like wild beasts. The lightning-fast attack quickly overwhelmed and subdued Ursel. Immediately after, the leader stepped in with cold eyes. He continuously interrogated her about where the gold and silver were hidden. Knowing she could not resist forever, Ursel pointed behind Bodden's portrait. But when they searched and only found a few coins, his anger erupted violently. The pirates began ransacking the house, smashing everything to find the stolen gold. Meanwhile, on the beach, life continued normally, people coming and going without knowing the disaster approaching. Then the confrontation began when the island manager approached to ask the strangers' identities and purpose. Facing the probing eyes, Connor slightly curled his lips, replying with a cold metaphor about a storm sweeping away paradise, then claiming he was just a wanderer of the sea seeking shelter. The words seemed humble but hid deep malice. Offshore, the pirates rowed in unison, each stroke like the drumbeat of death. On the pier, panic spread quickly. The people hurriedly took women and children into the church for shelter. Amid the chaos, the manager recognized the man before him as Connor, the notorious figure who once served the British Empire and was now wanted. However, Connor calmly declared that he had only come to demand the handover of Bodden's wife, with no intention of starting a war. The manager firmly refused. Upon hearing that, Connor pretended to regret and nodded slightly. With just that signal, he ordered the escalation of violence. The defenders immediately prepared the cannons. They demanded the enemy ship stop, but Connor ignored them, struck down the manager, and ordered sniping. A gunshot rang out, a soldier fell, beginning the life and death battle. In Ursel's house, the leader had gone to the sea to report, while the other 2 continued interrogating her. They even tightened a rope around her neck and pulled her up to force a confession. Despite being on the verge of death, Ursel still did not speak, but right then Isaac accidentally made a noise. Immediately, a mother's instinct exploded. Ursel finished with a scream full of hatred. On the beach, the battle also erupted, gunshots and cannon fire echoing, turning the island into a battlefield. But the situation quickly tilted in favor of the pirates. When the battle ended, Connor approached the captured manager, forcing him to reveal the signal cannon's position in exchange for the villagers' lives. In the end, he surrendered and revealed the position on the highest cliff. Upon hearing that, Connor nodded and coldly ordered the execution. At the same time, First Mate Lee reported that Baden's wife had been captured, but the truth was completely different. In the ruined house, Ursel had eliminated the two pirates. She reassured Isaac and asked him to gather things to leave. Right then, a pastor burst in warning that the town had been surrounded, and the leader was her past ghost. He called her captain and begged for help, but Ursel coldly refused. However, when she read Elizabeth's letter, her eyes changed. Without hesitation, she asked the pastor to take Isaac into the mangrove forest. While she went to find Elizabeth, she moved silently through the forest, avoiding patrol groups. Finally finding Elizabeth running back in panic, the girl said her boyfriend had been killed by pirates. Ursel did not allow her to be weak, immediately pulling her along. Meanwhile, Connor arrived at the house, discovered the bodies of his two comrades, and realized Ursel was the female pirate who had once betrayed him. Based on the wheelchair tracks, he immediately pursued. In the forest, the pastor was waiting. Just seconds later, Ursel and Elizabeth appeared, but the sound of Masheets approaching made them run. Ursel led everyone to the crocodile-filled creek and used a boat to cross. Isaac and Elizabeth went first, then Ursel. But the pirates had caught up. The pastor decided to stay behind to buy time and was shot dead by Connor. Ursel witnessed it all helplessly, then was discovered. Parrots swarmed through the creek in pursuit. Suddenly, screams rang out as crocodiles attacked them. Nevertheless, some still crossed and continued the chase, unaware they were stepping into a deadly trap. Just as predicted, Ursel had ambushed in advance, rushing out to deliver lethal blows to protect her family's escape route. In the end, she eliminated the entire pirate group right in the middle of the wild, treacherous forest. Right then, Connor spoke up, signaling the end of the skirmish. His voice echoed, directly calling Ursel's notorious pirate nickname, sarcastically asking if her son knew his mother's true identity. Then, he made an exchange proposal. Connor promised to spare Baden's life if Ursel brought his gold to her small house. An agreement was made between two who once fought side by side. Upon hearing that, Ursel shouted loudly in agreement. Without hesitation, she immediately led Isaac and Elizabeth onward to safety. They crept through the rocky outcrops near the beach, where waves crashed violently. When they arrived, Elizabeth could not hide her surprise upon seeing a secret entrance hidden in the cliff. Then, Ursel led both deeper into the hiding place to rest. Here, she began to recount her past. Previously, her family's ship had been attacked by Connor and his gang. The pirates had killed Ursel's entire family and taken her away. To survive, she was forced to completely change herself, take on a new identity, and become a killer and robber for them. But when she grew up, Ursel found a way to take revenge on Connor. She stabbed him with a fatal blow, then took the accumulated gold and fled, then met Baden and lived a peaceful life. Unfortunately, that year's stab did not hit Connor's heart, so he survived. That's why, even now, he pursued her to reclaim the gold and seek revenge. And to confront him, only violence could answer violence. That very night, Ursel decided to act alone, when a pirate suddenly sensed the smell of death lingering around him. In the next instant, Ursel appeared like a ghost. Her blade sliced across the guard's neck in absolute silence. In the darkness, she snapped another's neck with one decisive move. Warning whistles sounded full of worry. A pirate heard footsteps, but before he could react, he fell immediately. Before long, Ursel advanced straight to where Baden was held. Upon seeing her, Baden's eyes showed both pain and relief. He apologized for secretly using the marked gold bar. It was all because he wanted to find a good doctor to treat his son. Upon hearing that, Ursel did not blame him but felt guilty instead. She had not told Baden the full truth about the gold. Then the two shared a kiss as if to dispel all doubts. But the only key was in Connor's hand, so Ursel could not unlock the chains. In the end, she decided to use the gold to exchange for Baden's freedom. Immediately after, Ursel set up an explosive trap, tied the gold barrel to the well pulley, and made noise to lure the enemy. Indeed, just seconds later, she was surrounded on all sides. When one boldly advanced, he immediately lost his life as Ursel activated the trap. The others immediately became cautious and fearful. At that moment, Connor stepped out of the wooden house. He recalled the past, claiming he had once saved her life and freed her from slavery. At the same time, he signaled to drag Baden out as a hostage to apply pressure. But in reality, his goal was not only the gold but also the bounty on Ursul's head and revenge. To punish, he chose Bodden as the first target. Right after releasing him, he immediately attacked in front of Ursel. But Bodden was no weakling. He turned to confront Connor without fear. The unexpected situation forced Ursel to rush into the life and death battle. She quickly activated the explosive traps to hinder the enemy. The explosions shook the ground, smoke and dust enveloped everything in chaos. In the midst of the battle, Connor gradually gained the upper hand with experience and struck down Bodden. Sensing the danger, Ursel shouted loudly to stop, accepting to sacrifice herself to save her husband. But Connor did not hesitate. He stabbed straight into Bodden's body, ending him right before her eyes. More cruelly, he gave her no time to grieve, forcing her to face the loss. In despair, Ursel lit the fuse she had prepared. The explosives in the gold barrel detonated violently, forcing Connor and the pirates to retreat. Taking advantage of the chaos, Ursel jumped into the well and escaped through the secret passage. When the smoke cleared, First Mate Lee angrily questioned Connor because his son had died in the explosion. He yelled that the gold-seeking mission was ruined due to Connor's personal vendetta. But Connor only coldly said he lacked vision. The situation became tense when Lee declared an end to the campaign and demanded command. Upon hearing that, Connor tilted his head, asking if that was mutiny. While the crew hesitated, he immediately fired. The bullet pierced Lee's chest, making him collapse immediately. To reassure the pirates, Connor held up the Imperial Decree high. He declared that if they captured Ursel, they would have all crimes erased. The entire crew would have a chance to start over if they delivered her head to the British Empire. Then he looked over the group, asking if they wanted to remain nameless on the sea forever. His voice cut into their pride. Immediately after, the pirates roared in unison, swearing to dedicate everything to the hunt. Meanwhile, deep in the rock cave, Elizabeth tremblingly stopped the bleeding for Ursel. She burst into tears when she heard Ursel whisper that Bodden was dead. The bad news left Elizabeth and Isaac stunned silent, but they had no time to grieve because the pirates had followed the traces here. Escaping now was no longer feasible. With no choice, they turned the rock cave into a fortress. Gunpowder was distributed, traps set everywhere. Ursel instructed how to distract and lure the enemy. Outside, the pirates discovered the blood trail leading into the cave. Connor immediately ordered Ursel to be captured at all costs. A group of pirates entered the cave, probing the path in the damp darkness. But they accidentally triggered the hidden mechanism, causing gunshots to ring out, beginning the battle. From above, Ursel observed and fired at the right moment. Gunshots echoed, small explosions occurred under the enemy's feet, causing panic. Taking advantage of the chaos, she signaled Isaac and Elizabeth to follow the cliff to escape to the boat. Meanwhile, the pirates tried to counterattack in the darkness. But as soon as they stabilized, a large explosion shook the cave. Many were thrown back. The hunt turned into a nightmare. In the darkness, Ursel continuously appeared and disappeared, taking down each one in turn. In the end, only she and Connor remained. The two enemies stepped outside to settle their grudge. Suddenly, Connor activated a smoke signal calling for British Navy reinforcements. He said no matter the outcome, she would be captured and executed. Immediately, both charged at each other. Connor coldly demanded she surrender, but Ursel firmly refused. Right when he prepared to finish her, a gunshot from behind hit his shoulder. The shooter was Elizabeth. She did not abandon Ursel, so returned to save her. Seizing the opportunity, Ursel put all her strength into the final blow. The sword blade pierced Connor's heart, making him collapse. He only managed to whisper Ursel's name one last time before dying. When everything ended, she took a deep breath and looked out to the sea. Although she had lost too much, she had avenged, protected her family and the island. The story ends here. What do you think of this movie? Please leave a comment. See you in the next video.